I 100% completed Astrobot's newest PS5 adventure. I beat all 5 worlds, did every bonus stage, I found over 300 missing robots, and I even did this game's final gauntlet level in what I'm guessing is record time. And my professional review of Astrobot is that if you don't do all of this as well, I don't like you. Well, besides the record time part, Astrobot is, full stop, one of the most joyous experiences I have had with a game all year. When I wasn't smiling at the 30 years of loving PlayStation cameos and references, I was smiling because this little guy still has some of the best game feel and most creative level design of any platforming mascot out there. I don't say any of this without a lot of thought, and also, I'm not some weirdo who usually sits here smiling in my dark office alone when I'm playing video games. I'm sitting there stone-faced like the rest of you, so for this game to make me smile as much as it did, that says a lot. Astrobot is a platforming fan's platformer. It's a PlayStation fan's love letter. It's exactly the kind of game you say you want when you're tired of all the third-person story games that Sony can't seem to stop making, and it checks each of these boxes without feeling like it's relying too hard on any of them so as to cheapen the experience or feel phony about it. The fan service and the whimsy and the challenge each complement one another perfectly, covering for the occasional weak spot that, to be clear, does exist. As always with reviews where I get an early copy of the game, thanks to PlayStation by the way for the code, I'm going to start the full review with the worst thing about the game first. But I also want to quickly note that this video is going to try to avoid visual spoilers as much as possible since there are so many cameos that you should experience for yourself. However, the cameo robots are all walking around the hub world all the time, so I'm not going to be able to stop them all. Here's me flossing with Knack. If you're new here, I'm sorry. So my two biggest complaints with Astrobot are that I want more of it, and that the game feels too good and has too many cool ideas for there not to be more levels that really put platformer nerds like me to the test. This is a game that's very deliberately balanced to appeal to legacy players and newcomers, not just to all the little PlayStation references, but to the genre itself, so the main game naturally keeps things a bit simpler. If you're not familiar with our little robot hero, he's got a jump, a punch that you can charge up for a spin attack, and a hover in place of a double jump where he fires lasers below him that can damage enemies or even the brittle floor below you sometimes. That's pretty much his entire slate of moves outside of gadgets that you get in certain levels, and aside from the wonderfully creative boss fights, it is a one-hit KO if you take damage. Astrobot has 5 galaxies that each contain at least 6 main levels, as well as a handful of smaller challenge asteroid levels that appear in the galaxy as you collect and explore. And I don't think there's a single dud amongst the main levels. They are all creative and meaty experiences that usually run upwards of 15 plus minutes depending on how quickly you find each of the 7 robots hidden in those stages, or the puzzle pieces that help unlock new features in your hub world. Some of them even transcend being just super fun and can hit you in a way that you might not even realize is possible this far into your gaming life. There's a level that finally evoked for me as an adult that feeling we've all heard Mario 64's water levels did for kids decades ago. Keep in mind, Mario 64 was the first game that I can remember playing. It's one of the first memories I have, period. I just wasn't a good swimmer back then, so those have always held on to a bit of that fear of water. And in no world did I expect Astrobot to finally be the game to give me that feeling that other people had there firsthand. However, those bite-sized challenge asteroids that will appear, although they're also usually fun and creative, they didn't quite scratch the itch that I've continued having with the Astro series. In this game, these are split amongst a few different styles, such as the rampages where you're just trying to defeat all the enemies before the floor under you collapses, or the PlayStation symbol challenges that are the exact kind of white-knuckled pure platforming that Astro's stellar game feel is built for by this point. Only, these are usually about maybe a minute long, and that's kind of where my issue lies. There are more than enough of them over the course of the game that itch of mine did end up getting mostly scratched, and the variety does a great job of acting as a palate cleanser between those longer, more exploration-focused main stages. I'll also note that some of these main levels even have a secret exit that unlocks a corresponding level in the bonus galaxy, and these bonus galaxy levels are full stages as well, as opposed to those bite-sized challenges. They're not always harder levels necessarily though, they're just kind of more, so my platforming lizard brain sometimes just wanted to see the game really put it all together to take this from an A+ game to an instant all-timer. To be clear, more was a compliment there by the way, because more opportunities to see this game's unique assortment of level gadgets and gimmicks goes a massive way towards handling this one critique I have, my only real critique with this game. These gadgets can range from cute animal-themed backpacks that give Astro a charged vertical jump or a horizontal dash attack, to the returning motion control monkey power-up that lets you rock climb, all the way to a very clear and loving nod to Mario Galaxy 2's Cloud Mario power-up. Almost all of these abilities open up a whole new spread of creative level design options. They all have specific enemies catered to them to create a new challenge, and most importantly, they continue iterating in each new level on these gadgets so that you're never seeing the same power-up used the same way. That Cloud Mario nod, for example, it lets you suck up different types of liquid to create platforms under your feet, so even within one level, they'll start tweaking it from a regular rocky platform to bouncy honey to ice ramps, etc. Just about every one of these gadgets is either used exactly as often as it should be, or I'm left wanting even more. And again, my single selfish critique of wanting to see the game really put it all together comes back to this one point, because there is such clear talent at Team Asobi that if they really took off the gloves on some post-game challenges, this would become, full stop, one of the most complete platformers of all time. It already pretty much is, but that would be the exclamation point. The idea of bonus levels that throw multiple gadgets at you in a row, or let you pick between them, or that stretch them and you to your limits, that's the stuff that gets me salivating. It's the only desire I have left with Astro. And to be clear, they did say early on that they were going to be doing free DLC in a few months that adds speedrun challenges as well as some new custom challenge levels. But until those updates drop, the jury is still out on whether Astro will completely blow the roof off instead of leaving one or two shingles left hanging on by a thread. But I am hopeful. And I do want to note that I'm exactly the kind of player who would be able to call this game out on any sort of shit if there was any. Having played Astro's prior games recently for my retrospective on them, check that out by the way if you've never had the chance to play his incredible VR game, I was uniquely suited to risk being burned out on Astro, like say if this game had just quietly reused rescue missions ideas or levels. It's also part of why it took me just under 12 hours to get the Platinum Trophy, because I am uniquely keyed into some of their little tricks and where they hide bots or puzzle pieces or anything like that. I don't expect at all that most platforming aficionados would get all the way through the game in fewer than 15 hours, and probably closer to 20 for people that aren't as keyed into the genre as we are. So what I'm saying with all this is that I would have noticed if they were slacking in any way, and Team Asobi absolutely was not. Not only did they not do any of this, the game finds equal footing to carve out its own wonderful nostalgia, despite the character technically only being 11 years old, and honestly younger than that. The bosses, for example, often have the same giant creatures we fought in Astro's first game, but these returning baddies completely take on a new life thanks to either the new gadget you're given in each level, or the very creative final leg that can turn these bosses into a memorable platforming set piece in their own right. Moreover, the incredible soundtrack not only works in themes carried over from Astro's VR game and his PS5 tech demo, it continues iterating on them with the same sort of reverence that usually takes so many more years to build in a budding franchise. Instead of getting tired of hearing any themes come back for the second or third time and feeling like, oh well that's just kind of reused, I had that same heart swell again and again that comes when you're playing a Mario or a Zelda or a Kirby game, one of those big legacy franchises that can often reference classic motifs in a way that's usually only earned over years of high-quality orchestration and stellar moments to tie you into those tracks. Astro's already got that in his third outing. That's how good of a job the packages have been each and every time. That's only enhanced this time by way of the PlayStation Cameo robots, which make up about half of the robots you're trying to rescue in each level. These are usually lumped together per stage with other bots either from the same series or from that same developer. Functionally, these are mostly the same as the regular robots, although usually there's either a slightly better or more creative challenge involved in finding or rescuing them. A lot of times they feel hand-picked to fit the theme of the level even. It's not a coincidence that some of the Team Ico bots, for example, are found in the same level as you climbing a boss Shadow of the Colossus style, and it's these moments that so clearly push these cameos beyond surface-level nostalgia appeal. These references are baked into the very core of Astrobot's game design a lot of the time, because this team is so clearly made up of fans, not just of PlayStation, but of games. You don't get a Mario Galaxy 2 power-up if they weren't constantly doing their homework and trying to find out what makes a great platformer so great. The amount of times I got angry because of how good they were, it's in the dozens. It's even down to some of this game's trophies being references to a specific series legacy, and it was all constant because the game couldn't wipe the smile off of my face. There are some very special levels, as they've shown in the trailers, that are even full-fledged love letters to individual PlayStation universes such as God of War, with absolutely incredible Astro remixes of those games' soundtracks and mechanics as well. The last thing I'll mention is that the hub world, where all of your rescued robots hang out, is a wonderful little place to explore. As you complete worlds and save robots, you'll unlock new forks out from this center area, where you can find very special cameo eggs that are some of the most classic cuts of PlayStation references. But you'll actually need your robot buddies to help you out by making human ropes or ladders, or just by helping you push boulders out of the way. There's no better way to constantly add to that smile on your face than to see your favorite characters pop up organically as part of the human ladder or whatever. All these robots serve to be a team, a family, and it feels so wholesome. Honestly, if I had one other wish for the game, it's that as updates come along, more of the at least first-party character outfits could become usable for Astro and the player. There are a good number of costumes that already are there for Astro that reference Parappa or Ratchet & Clank, etc., but I know for a fact that one of the top requests by fans is going to be to let you play as even more of these characters. Now, to circle back to what I said at the start, this isn't just a game you should buy. It isn't just a game you should beat. It's a game you should go all the way and 100% complete. Not just because it's such a rewarding and fun experience, but also if only so I can live vicariously through each and every one of you when you get to the end of this game or the final gauntlet. Every challenge is worth it. Every secret is fun to find. The whole run of final levels is enough to choke you up a bit if you've got a soul, because the masterful closing hours of Astrobot can make you remember why we're here at all. The fact is that a lot of PlayStation's more core fanbase hasn't been quite as happy lately, because the company's frequently lost itself in the muck of poorly timed and often frankly awful PR decisions, or it's lost some of that core in its attempts to continually reach and establish a larger and more firm fanbase with, well, all those movie games, the stuff that became its bread and butter over the last decade. This is a company that, as I've gone through in all of my documentaries and retrospectives over the last several years, it's a company that was not ready for the success that it stumbled into so early in life, and we've been watching it for 25 years since try to figure out what it actually is, with the fans of those older games continually feeling left behind. Astrobot isn't a cynical grab at those feelings, a way to say, here, you have something, now hop on Concord. No, this is a game made to tell those folks, you're seen. It's a game made with so much respect for the giants whose shoulders Astro is standing on to get to this point, and by the end of this game, Astro has leapt off of those shoulders and found his own place right alongside those giants. For the past week since I beat the game, I've been trying to convince myself that I'm overthinking it, that while it's neck and neck with my other Game of the Year contenders, it's not the frontrunner, that's just a knee-jerk reaction because I had so much fun, and that'll settle down with time. No, Astrobot is the best game of 2024.